Welcome into another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated. I'm your host, Tom Cavanaugh from the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow myself at TCAV30 on Twitter/X and follow our insider pages at UCLA Insider on SI, both on Twitter/X and on Facebook. Today, we're going to be looking at a few different sports for UCLA athletics, starting with the men's basketball team. They got a big win, 88-43 over Southern Utah on Tuesday night. And then we're going to take a look at the offense for Fresno State, the last opponent on the football team schedule. That game going to be held at the Rose Bowl on Saturday. Final time that a lot of these seniors or all the seniors are going to suit up for this team. So it should be a good finish for the football squad and for the basketball team. They just finished their final homestand game that's out of conference. They will play next Tuesday against Washington to kick off Big Ten play, two teams in their first season in the conference. So we'll start off talking about this win, another dominant Bruins victory at home. They improved to 6-1 with their 88-43 win over Southern Utah. Player of the game was Lazar Stefanovic. He was awesome. 19 points. He was 3 of 3 from deep, 8 of 12 shooting overall. He chipped in with 5 rebounds. Lazar's had a few different type of games this year. He did post a season high in scoring in this game. But he's had a few games where he's put up goose eggs. He's had games where he's scored 11, 13 points, and others where he scored 2 or 3 points. So he's been very up and down, but when he does get a lot of minutes and he's shooting the ball well, I mean, he can be the most dangerous player on the floor. And this calls back to how deep this team is because of all the different talent they have on the floor. Tyler Bilodeau, he only had 4 points, but once again, a common theme with this team is a guy like Bilodeau, who's your leading scorer statistically all year long. He doesn't need to have 15, 20, 25 points a game for this team to win and be successful because you have guys like Lazar. You have William Kyle III who put up 9 points. Eric Daly Jr. had 15 points as well. How about Dylan Andrews having one of his better games with 11 points, 5 of 8 from the field. So all around, you have a bunch of different guys that can score in double figures and really impact the game in a myriad of ways, even when your top guy isn't performing to his average level. The win also marks the Bruins' 6th at home and the 6th of 30 points or more. So their only loss was to New Mexico in a neutral site. Definitely a game where the Bruins did not play well, but it was the best opponent they have played this season. Everybody else has been a mid-major team that they have just whooped up on by 30-plus points, a few of those wins by 40 or more. UCLA, when it comes to teams that they should beat, they do it, and they do it badly. So once again, tip your cap to this team for playing well. They scored 34 points off of turnovers, just completely swallowing up Southern Utah. They led by 50 points at one time in the ball game, kind of let the pedal off the gas late. And when you look at UCLA, too, they had 50 bench points. A lot of those came from Lazar, the 19, and then a few other guys that played well, Sebastian Mack off the bench, Trent Perry, another 9 points. He continues to get better as the season goes on. Adai Mara had 6 points. He finished with 8 rebounds to lead the team. So everybody really chipped in, played well in this game. Kobe Johnson had just 4 points, did not take a ton of shots, but he did have 6 rebounds. And I know he didn't have the 6 steals that he had last game, but he did have one. The steal leader was Sky Clark. So these Bruins finally finishing up their lesser non-conference opponents, and they got a big game next Tuesday. They're taking on the Washington Huskies in both of these teams' first Big Ten game. So it'll be held at Pauley Pavilion, and the Huskies are 4-1 right now, similar to what this Bruins team has done so far. We've seen the Huskies kind of struggle. They didn't come down to the wire, but it was a very competitive game with Alcorn State a week or so ago. So that they're definitely beatable. And if the Bruins play to their ability, they're going to be able to execute and do a good job and start out 1-0. And it'll be also a good measuring stick test for when the Bruins have to play Arizona, North Carolina, and Gonzaga over the next couple of weeks. Switching over to the football side of things, breaking down this offense for Fresno State, they're middle of the pack pretty much in the Mountain West Conference. Definitely not a team that tops the charts like Boise State, but they do have a few key guys that do play very well. Specifically in the pass game, they have one guy that really thrives, And in the running game, they're a lot less effective. Quarterback Mikey Keene, he was a transfer after the 22 season coming over from UCF, and he's had a pretty darn good year, completing 70.6% of his passes. He's thrown for over 2,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, but 11 interceptions is a big number right there. He throws a ton of picks. So this is going to be awesome for the defense, the secondary defense of the Bruins, to take advantage and grab a couple interceptions. We've seen the linebackers get involved in that, Keelan Moore and the rest of that secondary as well. And he's also been sacked 23 times. So when you look at a few of these guys on the line and a couple of these linebackers for the Bruins, they could really get home and cause some issues for Mikey Keene in the final game of the season. The guy that Keene likes to throw to the most is a guy in Mac Delana, 51 receptions for 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. He has been the key piece, ranks 4th in receiving yards in the entire Mountain West Conference, and he's going to be the main target. Another guy in sophomore Jalen Moss, 549 receiving yards on 44 catches with 4 touchdowns. He's been pretty solid as well this year, just a little less targets than what Delana has gotten this year, but those are going to be the top 2 guys that are going to be getting the most looks from Keene in the passing game. And then when you look at the rushing statistics, there's nobody really stands out. I mean, you're not playing a guy in like you did in Woody Marks last week with USC, who had over 1,000 yards. I mean, this Fresno team, they've combined for less yards than what Marks did coming into last week. Elijah Gilliam, he's a senior running back. He's only put together 465 rushing yards on 120 carries. So averaging just under 4 yards a carry. He's got 8 touchdowns, though. So when Gilliam he does get the ball, it's usually inside the 10-yard line for those quick, easy scores. So I don't expect this Fresno State offense to be extremely explosive on the ground, more so in the pass game, but also they're running the risk of throwing a couple interceptions because of Keene's ability or his stat of throwing 11 picks through 11 games this year. But Fresno State's coming off a big win. They had lost 2 in a row before beating Colorado State last week, and they are now bowl eligible, something that the Bruins will not be able to get to this year as they sit at 4-7. But still a good test for UCLA to come out. All of their seniors wanting to play well, going to get a lot of time on the field to really end their season on a high note. And kind of just looking at another Big Ten team that has played Fresno State this year. It was in week 1 when the Michigan Wolverines hosted Fresno. Mikey Keene threw 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in a 30-10 loss. So obviously the Bruins defense not quite what the Wolverines are, but I could see a very similar outcome occurring with Keene throwing a pair of picks. Maybe he gets in the end zone once or twice with a touchdown pass, but I see the Bruins coming out with a win and kind of silencing this offense for Mikey Keene and Fresno State. This has been the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow on a Friday. Glad you had an awesome Thanksgiving, and we will see you again soon here on the UCLA Bruins Pod.